President Joe Biden's son unleashing a legal fight with key figures on the right. Hunter Biden is requesting criminal investigations into people tied to the release of private information from his purported laptop. Hunter Biden's lawyers allege that Trump allies, including Rudy Giuliani and Steve Bannon, as well as a computer repair shop owner, broke the law to weaponize materials to smear his father. Let's break this down with CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez and former federal prosecutor Jen Rogers. Evan, so this is the first time that Hunter Biden's camp is saying it is his personal data that was being trafficked, although they aren't confirming the narrative out there on the right about how it all got started. Lay out this new strategy for us.
Well, the strategy is to turn the tables on some of his accusers. These are people that he knows obviously have been going after him for the last 4 years. Some of this was first surfaced back in 2020, right, just before the 2020 election. And that's one of the references you see in these letters that Hunter Biden's team has now sent to the Delaware Attorney General, to the Justice Department, to the IRS, asking for investigations of a number of these figures. You showed pictures of some of these people that he is asking investigations of. And the view here is, plain. You can see it in this letter from Abby Lowell. I'll read you just a couple lines of it here, where he says, that this failed, dirty political trick directly resulted in the exposure, exploitation, and manipulation of Mr. Biden's private and personal information. He says that this is information that is now on the internet being used as a political cudgel against President Biden, his father. And obviously, Casey, you know that there's a criminal investigation that's going on at the Justice Department. We also know that we also know that House Republicans are trying to do investigations of Hunter Biden, trying to tie some of that stuff to his father, and they're using this now to fight back.
Pretty interesting. And Jen, Abby Lowell is a very aggressive, very well-known figure here in D.C. Do he and Hunter Biden have a case? Could this stick?
Well, we don't really know enough to know that, but I think it's interesting, as Evan explained, how they're going on the offensive. But yes, there are, in theory, crimes that could apply here, both Delaware state crimes and federal crimes about unauthorized access of computerized information, the stealing of personal information. It's going to come down to who brought in the laptop, what the terms of the deal for service were, and whether the person in the laptop store stayed within those or did not. But it is possible, although I suspect that because it's not like we didn't know about this laptop long ago, if the authorities in Delaware and on the federal side thought that there was a case to be made here, they probably already would be doing it on their own. And whether they are or not, we just don't know.
Yeah, so to that point, Jen, House Oversight announced that next week they're going to hold a hearing about whether Twitter suppressed the initial media news stories about Hunter Biden's laptop. How much of this is PR and political? Do these looming GOP probes explain the timing of this move?
I think they do. I think they've decided that it's smart to take the offensive. Listen, whether or not these other people are charged, whether or not the IRS actually revokes the nonprofit status of Marco Polo, one of the entities involved in spreading the laptop information, that doesn't really matter to Hunter Biden, right? He's looking at his own criminal charges potentially, but it paints them as bad actors. It paints it as a political hit job, as opposed to a legitimate look into possible criminal violations or ethical violations by both Bidens. And so I think it's smart to reframe and say, listen, I'm not the one who's done things wrong here. Look at how this all came about and what they've done. They're the bad actors here.
So, Evan, talk to us about the Department of Justice's role in all of this. They obviously started investigating Hunter Biden under Trump. So he is the target of a probe. Now he's asking for another DOJ probe. Obviously, he is President Biden's son. Merrick Garland is President Biden's attorney general. This is a tough spot for him. What are the options?
Yeah, look, none of this is cleanly done, right? Partly because, as you pointed out, all of these different connections. But the issue here is that, certainly for the Justice Department, what Merrick Garland did as soon as he took office is they handed over and made sure that this investigation was being handled by a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in Delaware. Delaware, kept him on the job to complete this investigation for now more than 2 years. And we anticipate that prosecutors are weighing whether to bring charges related to his tax issues, related to a gun that he purchased. We don't know, or at least there are no indications that there's anything related to the laptop that might be in those charges. So for now, at least, it appears that these might be separate things.
Right. So, Jen, I mean, if there was any evidence that was found on the laptop, if it was obtained illegally before it was handed over, is that evidence then unusable? And to Evan's point, I mean, does that even matter? Does Hunter Biden still face legal liability regardless?
So the FBI doesn't get tagged with things that private parties do if it's not at the direction of the FBI. So, even if there had been an unauthorized intrusion by the laptop store owner, that sort of thing, as soon as the FBI comes in and seizes the laptop, assuming that they didn't do anything wrong in getting it, then they can use what's on it. They don't get tainted by that improper search or by that crime. But, we know they've had it for a long time. So, you really do have to think that to the extent that there was information on the laptop that led to a possibility of additional charges that don't have to do with the tax ones that he's already facing, that would have been either wrapped into the Delaware investigation or perhaps, sent somewhere else, a special counsel, that sort of thing. So if they're not actually investigating that in Delaware, it's likely that it means that there aren't those sorts of crimes that show up on the laptop evidence.
And Hunter Biden's attorneys are calling for investigations into who they say unlawfully shared contents from his laptop.
All right, let's turn to some of your other reporting today about President Biden's son and his counter strategy against the Republican quest to investigate him. What do you know?
Right, exactly, Victor and Allison. This is an attempt to turn the tables on some of the right-wing media figures who have been going after Hunter Biden. And in this case, Hunter Biden's legal team, his new lawyers, have sent letters to the Attorney General in Delaware, as well as the Justice Department and the IRS, asking for a number of investigations, including against the computer repair shop owner who first said that he had this laptop that belonged to Hunter Biden. Of course, that blew up in the media in 2020, just before the 2020 presidential election. Of course, Rudy Giuliani, some of the other figures that you see on your screen are people who were involved in trying to disseminate some of the contents of said laptop. And Hunter Biden says that this is a violation of his privacy. Obviously, he says that some of his data was stolen, inappropriately accessed, and distributed. I'll read you just a part of a statement or a letter from Abby Lowell, his new lawyer, who says this failed, dirty political trick directly resulted in the exposure, exploitation, and manipulation of Mr. Biden's private and personal information. And this information, according to Hunter Biden and his team, has really been weaponized against him and his father. And this is why you see now Republicans are organizing hearings. They say they're going to spend more time investigating Hunter Biden. And of course, the backdrop of all of this, Allison and Victor, is that the Justice Department separately has an investigation going into Hunter Biden for tax issues and his purchase of a gun. That, of course, is something that is still pending.
A lot going on. Evan Perez, thanks so much.
Andy, let's talk about Hunter Biden, because Hunter Biden's laptop, as you know, has been this kind of specter, I guess, floating over various campaigns. And now Hunter Biden's own attorneys are calling for investigations into the people who allegedly disseminated the contents of that laptop. So what crime is that?
Well, it could be a number of different crimes, Allison. It's of course a crime to access protected electronic information without authorization, or to exceed the authorization that you do have. That's the part that might apply to the computer repairman. It is also it can be a federal crime to steal electronic information and then profit from it, use that information. It's essentially like using stolen property. So there are a number of different potential crimes here. I think what this really is an effort by Mr. Biden and his attorneys to recast his role in this whole saga as a victim of a crime rather than someone who, the material on this laptop points to some sort of alleged malfeasance on his part. And quite frankly, I'm surprised it's taken them this long to get around to it. It's a very calculated and I think effective strategy. It's one that reframes the controversy around the laptop in a way that's potentially very beneficial for him. So I think it's probably a smart move at this point, and it's as effective as a public relations tool and as a tool managing his contentions with Congress as much as it is likely to inspire an independent federal investigation.
All right. Andrew McCabe, thank you.
Next, President Biden's son Hunter on the offensive as Republicans zero in on his laptops. In a series of scathing letters, Hunter Biden's new lawyers are asking the Delaware Attorney General, the Justice Department, and the IRS to target right-wing personalities such as Rudy Giuliani and Steve Bannon for what the lawyers say is illegal access or illegal dissemination of Hunter Biden's personal data. As CNN's Jessica Schneider reports for us now, this is the first time the president's son and his legal team have publicly acknowledged that information purportedly taken from a laptop is legitimately his.
To tell you what kind of
Hunter Biden is on the attack. His new team of lawyers sending letters to the Justice Department and Delaware's Attorney General urging criminal investigations into the computer repair shop owner who they say improperly accessed his personal data from a laptop.
When I was hired by Hunter to do a data recovery.
And a number of prominent right-wing figures, including Rudy Giuliani and Steve Bannon, who Biden's new lawyers say released and weaponized Hunter Biden's personal information in the lead up to the 2020 election, all in an effort to damage now President Joe Biden.
On the form, Hunter Biden claims
Hunter's legal team also demanding Tucker Carlson and Fox News retract stories they claim are false. The letters also acknowledge for the first time that it was Hunter's personal data purportedly found on a laptop left at that Delaware repair shop in 2019. Hunter Biden was asked about the laptop in 2021.
Was that your laptop?
for real. I don't know.
I know, but you
my
know
point
that's
is,
this is
I really don't know.
Okay.
The answer is
You don't
the
know
truthful
yes
answer.
or no if the laptop
I don't have
was
any
yours.
idea.
The laptop appears to contain a massive trove of information, from business documents to emails and some potentially salacious materials. Details were splashed across the New York Post and repeated again and again on Fox News just before the 2020 election.
They say, right, and look, this is the laptop from hell.
Now, Hunter Biden and his team are fighting back, just as House Republicans are ramping up their investigations into what they say were Hunter's questionable business dealings with foreign companies, and as the U.S. Attorney in Delaware continues to investigate Hunter's tax dealings and possible false statements while making a gun purchase.
There's a current Department of Justice investigation into your finances.
Yep.
What is it about? Can you say anything more?
I can't, but I can say this, is I'm cooperating completely. And I am absolutely certain, 100% certain, that at the end of the investigation, that I will be cleared of any wrongdoing.
And right now, that federal investigation is still ongoing. It's separate from that onslaught of attacks that Hunter Biden is bracing for from congressional Republicans as they prepare to hold hearings into his business dealings. So, Jake, the swirl of all of this, likely the reason for this new legal team, the change in legal strategy as his lawyers definitely go on the attack here.
Overnight, CNN reported that Hunter Biden and his attorneys want there to be investigations into a computer repair shop owner, Rudy Giuliani, other right-wing figures who they say are responsible for the dissemination of the contents of his laptop. Do you think there's legal merit for something like that based on your past role as a prosecutor?
Look, I think what you have to recognize in all of this is that the person who brought the laptop to the fore was Rudy Giuliani. And this was in the aftermath of Giuliani's clear, inappropriate conduct regarding Ukraine. He was at the linchpin for Donald Trump's extortion of Ukraine. And so Rudy Giuliani at this point has no credibility. And I think that that's something that we on the Oversight Committee will be looking into. According to Chairman Jim Comer, they're going to be looking into Hunter Biden's laptop. But the American people don't care about Hunter Biden's laptop. They care about Congress delivering results. And so I am certainly cognizant of the fact that we need to make sure that we're focusing on the issues that the American people care about.